It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Warren Royals head women's basketball coach, Coach Nikki Jessee. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college women's basketball?
Well, I've played basketball my whole life since I was 8. So that was, I just didn't want basketball to be done with and always knew I wanted to coach and wanted basketball part of my life.
What was that experience like going to Rollins College and playing collegiate basketball?
It was great. It was, I had transferred from the University of Florida. So it was a second chance for me to, finish out my career on a good note. And it was a great experience. We had one of the best teams that played there. 3 of those players on my team were all in the Hall of Fame, so it's a pretty good team. And pretty much all of them have gone on to be successful in their careers as well. So it's been neat to see that go from college to now they're successful doctors and lawyers and mothers. So it's been awesome.
What were some of your biggest accomplishments and what was it like getting to put on that uniform for them?
Well, my senior year, I think we got as high as, I believe we were in the top 10 in the country, and we were number 1 team in the region. We set records for wins that season, and obviously went to the NCAA tournament. So those were pretty exciting. Being inducted in the Hall of Fame was obviously a highlight. You get to go back after you're done playing and get to relive those memories. So it was amazing. And one of my teammates announced me at the Hall of Fame, and that was pretty amazing too. So when you play college athletics, it's kind of a club for life. Like you're not just teammates during those years, you're teammates after that. And obviously with social media, you get an opportunity, you don't get to lose contact with people. You get to see what, they're doing after college, which is awesome. So, and Rollins, they've had a couple down years lately, but even since I left there, they were, been a national powerhouse. So it's pretty neat to see the tradition carry on.
What was that experience like going back and getting inducted into the Hall of Fame?
It was surreal. I'd been out of, playing for a little bit. I've been a coach for, quite a while and at the college level. So just to go back and relive those playing years was pretty neat. And just to, I'm not that far away from Rollins, and I've coached in that league and coached against my college coach. So, we're still pretty familiar with each other, but just to go back on a different in a different way, a different role as going back to be a student athlete again. And it was pretty neat. And just to relive memories you'd kind of forgotten about. So it was just a great experience.
Coming out of college, what was it like getting into becoming an assistant coach and first coaching at Campbell University?
So when I graduated college, I went and played pro overseas for a little bit. And when I came back, I was ready to coach and be done playing. And, it was right in the middle of basketball season when I came back. So I worked at a high school and was an assistant there. And this is before, obviously internet. I'm pretty old, I guess. But so I sent out about 500 letters to basically every college in the country, Division I and Division II, to see if anybody had a graduate assistant position or assistant position. Somehow I could get my foot in the door. And, obviously hundreds of rejection letters came in the mail. And then I got several that were interested. So um, Wanda Watkins, the head coach at Campbell at the time, took a chance on me. And I actually was just telling someone about this yesterday. Like, she had never hired anybody outside of her program before. She'd only hired people that had played for her. So that was a huge deal. And she took a chance on me. And 25 years later, I'm still coaching. And she actually just had the court named after her up at Campbell University, which is a pretty big deal, obviously, for a female head coach. So I learned from the best, and I'm super thankful that she even gave me an opportunity.
What were some of the things that you learned to then help you to make those transitions into your further careers?
I think the biggest thing was how she treats people. She's just one of those people that everybody loves. She's very stern and disciplined, but at the same time, loving and kind. And I think that's a fine balance. And she, taught me that about, just obviously the work ethic and the number of hours that go into being a college coach, but also like, the relationship part with not just with the players, but with the rest of the campus as well.
What was that experience like going to Tuscum College and becoming their assistant coach?
Well, it was just another opportunity to learn under a head coach, and you know, it was a different state too. I'm obviously from Florida, so I moved to Tennessee for that year, and from Tusculum, I was lucky enough to land a college head job at 27 years old. So I stayed in Tennessee, and what I learned at Tusculum, I played Division I, then I transferred to Division II. Tusculum is Division II, so I got to learn about another league, and just every conference is different how they play too. So I got to see a different style of play as well.
What was that experience like going to University of Tampa and going back to the Florida area?
Well, I went from Martin Methodist College to Lynn University as the head coach there. And so I got to be in the same league that I played in, and I got to coach against my college coach. But that's also where I met my husband. My husband is the women's basketball coach at the University of Tampa. So he and I started dating and got engaged when I was at Lynn, and we got married. And I was his assistant for 2 years at Tampa, is when we had our daughter. And then I went so it was pretty obviously, nice to work with your husband, and, somebody obviously I respect, and he has an awesome program. And then I got hired at St. Leo University. So Tom and I were the first husband and wife in the entire country at any level and at any sport to coach against each other as a married couple. So we did that for 3 years, and that was definitely enough. But it was a great experience. And, just to coach against your spouse is unheard of.
What was that experience like going to St. Leo and becoming their head coach?
Well, like I said, it was, I got to coach against Tom, and just when I took over at St. Leo, that program had one winning season ever. So it was a building process. And, by year 2, we're in the conference finals. And by year 3, we're in the NCAA tournament. So that was pretty amazing just to see, the progress in building a program.
Coming from your time at St. Leo's, what was it like transitioning into Warren Royals and becoming their head coach?
Well, by then, Warner, that's my fourth head job as a college coach, and it's a different level. I think similar in both that they're, broken programs. They hadn't had a whole lot of success. But Warner's a lot different too. We're NAIA, so and we're probably in our league, we're the least funded athletic program. So not just women's basketball, but across the board in athletics. So we're trying to, push for more scholarships and more funding for athletics in general at Warner. It's a little different comparing, to St. Leo. St. Leo's Division II, we weren't fully funded, but we had enough money to obviously be successful. So the transition's been it's been interesting, just trying to push for, you want the best for your athletes, you want to win at a high level. And so at Warner, it's been a transition as far as like, hey, this is what we need in order to win and compete, versus at St. Leo, we had a lot of those things already.
What was that feeling like as a head coach stepping onto that court for the first time at Warner?
Well, it was Obviously, anytime you step into a new role, it's exciting. Just exciting to see where we can take the program and how far we can, or how successful we can be with it. So it was exciting to be on the court.
What is that process like getting as a head coach, building that coaching staff and the players around you?
It's been a process, but we have some really great kids. We've had, the first couple of years are a little rough in any program you take over, just as when you take over a losing program, because there's obviously a reason that they're losing. So, the first couple of years, just trying to lay the foundation, trying to build your culture, like, hey, this is how we do things. Obviously our academics were not great. So we've, really emphasized that. We haven't had below a 3.2 since I've been there, which is exciting. We've gotten to see, from where the program started and to where it is now. And we're still fighting battles, but it's not the same kind of battles. So it's been nice to see the progress.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've started to build for Warren?
Um, well, like I said, the biggest thing is like in any program that's losing, you're going to have, issues off the court as well. Like I said, our academics weren't good. I haven't taken over a program yet, like a losing program where the academics were good. So I think you have to fix like culture things, fix off the court first, and then get kids to buy into, hey, this is how we do things. We show up on time, we go to class. But at the same time, you want to treat them the right way too. Like we renovated our locker room. We got much better gear. Our kids are treated a lot better as far as how we travel and things like that. So you want the kids to be treated like winners if they're going to be winners. So that was the first few years that we're definitely focused on that as far as our culture goes.
What does a typical game day look like for you as a head coach versus for your players?
Well, for us, like pretty much everybody's, obviously it depends if we're on the road or at home, but usually we're in the office. Even though we have a game that day, we're usually getting ready for the next game as far as with practices and things like that. But our whole staff and players, everybody's there 2 hours before, getting ready, at least getting mentally right. If we're going on the road, obviously depends on where we go. Like we may do a pregame meal or something like that. But um, it's usually for the most part that day is focused on that game that night.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against?
Our biggest rival is Weber, and they are ironically like 5-10 minutes away from us. I don't know why they built two college campuses so close, but they're our big rivals. And then we've got Southeastern, who is about 40 minutes away from us, so they're not very far either. And we're a Christian college, and so is Southeastern, so that we have that connection with them. But the best team in our league right now is St. Thomas. We actually just played them recently, and they're very good and really well coached. So we've got some pretty good teams in our league all the way. We've got one in Georgia, and then several that are South Florida, Miami area.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Weber come to home?
It gets a little intense. We definitely hire extra security. Both campuses do. It's a heated rivalry, but hopefully it's a good rivalry. I'm actually really good friends with Weber's coach, so we compete pretty hard. But at the end of the day, we're friends still. So we pretty much pack out the gym usually for our games, especially the Weber game and all of our sports against them. And they're the same way when we go over there.
What is that like going on the road and playing teams like St. Thomas?
Well, it's about 3.5 hours from us, so it's a day trip for us. Ideally, we'd like to go stay the night. We're not at that level yet where we can afford that budget wise, so we're usually going down the day of. But it's a for whatever reason, we usually have really good games with St. Thomas, and we know they're going to be pretty intense too, and they're a well coached team, and Candace, the coach there, does a great job with them. So, usually if it's a Saturday game, we play at 2 o'clock. So we're leaving about 8 a.m. to go down there. So we get a pregame meal and before we go, and the girls hop on and we drive down there, and we usually get to games 2 hours before, so they've got about an hour to get treatment and get taped, and then get on the court for an hour warm up before we play.
Of course, what are some of the home game atmosphere like when you are at home?
Well, we're a small school, but we usually, especially like right now, school's just gotten back in session from the Christmas break, so we usually have quite a few people there. We have a phenomenal football coach, and he brings his entire staff and all the football guys. And like our last home game, they sat behind our visitors bench. So we've got a lot of support from other teams, which is nice. We have a little bit of a smaller gym, which I love because it gets pretty crowded in there, which is a great home court advantage for us.
As a head coach, what does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes, and what do you look at in those prospective student athletes?
It varies from year to year depending on what position we're looking at, but we obviously we want kids that have good grades. You don't want to have to worry about kids that, are going to struggle academically. Now, it doesn't, if they work hard, that's different. We want to make sure that our kids don't have to make straight A's, but we want them to do the absolute best they can do, whether it's on the court or off. So, but really we look for kids that are tough, that just have something special that they bring to the table. We want kids, obviously, who can shoot too. They got to be able to score the basketball. But every recruiting class is different. Like this last one, we probably had the shortest team I've ever coached before, and they're pretty tough, but they're about 5 feet. We've got 3 or 4 players that are about 5 feet tall, which is pretty short for us. So, but they're, like I said, they're really tough and really quick. So every year just depends. We just want a certain kind of kid that's tough, that's going to work hard, that's going to go to class, that's going to buy into what we're doing. And, um, you know, we found that we're more successful when we get kids that really want to be at Warner versus kids that it's a last resort. We really want to take kids that are totally bought into what we're trying to build at Warner.
What does that official visit look like for those prospective student athletes when they get to come to the facility and fall in love with it?
It really depends. If it's a local kid, it's usually a day trip. We do the whole campus visit thing. We go to lunch. We have a meet with, a admissions counselor, maybe a teacher, depending on what their major is. We tour them around our weight room and our locker room. But I think our biggest selling point is our players. So we give them, whether they're staying the night or it's a day trip, we give them time alone with our players to hang out and ask them any questions. I think I can give them my perspective, but it's not quite the same as a player's perspective. And we also want them to feel comfortable asking questions, about me and, what they're getting into. Like, I don't ever want to act like, everything's going to be perfect the whole time they're here, because it's not. It's just like the real world. Like they're going to face some bad days and they're going to have some adversity, and we want to make sure that we support them and help them through that. So I let them ask our players anything they want without me being there, so they feel comfortable answering and asking questions.
As a head coach, what is it like getting to see those freshmen put on that uniform for the first time and your seniors putting it on for the last time?
We'll see. With freshmen, it's pretty exciting because they're still babies. Your freshman year is very overwhelming for anybody. You just don't know what you don't know, so it's an adjustment period. So you get to see them, with the excitement, and they're trying to prove themselves. So it's a neat experience, and it's neat too. I love seeing their families come, and they're obviously proud of their daughter for playing college basketball, and it's neat to see that. But seniors are entirely different. Like there's just something about seniors that are special. You can't win without special seniors, and especially seniors that have been in your program for 4 years. Like I have one this year that I've gotten to see her when she was 18 years old, or actually 17, 18. And to now she's about to graduate with a degree and go into law enforcement. And we would have never thought that 4 years ago. Like she has just matured, and I've gotten to be a part of that and see that. And So that's really special. And then you've got seniors who have a different kind of perspective because it's their last year. So everything's there's a little more sense of urgency in what you're trying to get accomplished. So it's neat. Seniors are just they're the best.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those players go on and playing professional basketball, whether it's in the WNBA or overseas?
Well, anytime they get to achieve their dream, like you get to be a part of that journey and helping them to achieve that, and then seeing them take their game to even a higher level than you could take them to. So it's pretty neat to see that.
What are some of your future plans for Warren moving forward?
Well, we just want to keep building. Our goal for our program is to win a national title, and we're a little ways off of that. But I don't see any purpose in coaching if you're not trying to win at the highest level. We expect to make the national tournament every year. We're moving in that direction too. And after that, we don't just want to go to the national tournament; we want to win it. So that's where we see us going.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college women's basketball?
Um, well, I think a lot of times freshmen's dream is to make it to college basketball, and then once they make it, they're like, "Oh, I'm here," and they stop working. And I think, and also they don't really know what work ethic is until they get to college. It's entirely different than at the high school level. You don't just show up to practice and that's it. Like you have to put some extra time in the gym and on top of your busy academic schedule. So the biggest thing is just coming in shape. In high school, I think a lot of kids wait for their coach to get them in shape when you start practice. In college, you're already in shape before you get there. So it's a lot more intense. It's a lot more hours. I don't think anything compares to it with AAU and high school. So um, just the maturity and work ethic is the biggest thing.
What advice would you give those college women's basketball players out there looking to play on the next level, whether it's the WNBA or overseas?
I think the biggest thing is the physical aspects of it. Even when you go to high school to college, like now you're really hitting the weight room, like you've got a strength coach and stuff. Well, it's now you're going to the pro level, so now your body has to change, like what you're eating, what you're putting in your body. There's no late night pizza and things like that. Like everything you're doing, you're now a professional athlete. Like when you're in college, you're a student and you're an athlete. When you're a professional, it's a different ball game. Like you're competing against people who are all professionals, and this is their livelihood. And then you put money at stake too, and things change. So just being prepared for that level of competition.
What advice would you give those players out there that are looking to get into college coaching after their playing career?
I think you need to ask a lot of questions. I don't think many players know exactly what goes into it. I mean, I just had one last week was like, what do you do all day? I do a lot of stuff. Like, I really think that they think we just show up to practice and games, and that's probably about it. So, really just, asking questions like, hey, maybe you should spend a day with your coach or with another coach and figure out, like, is this really what you want? Like, especially when you're starting out, you're not going to make a whole lot of money. It's very time consuming. There's a fine balance with having a family and, having a private life outside of your coaching career. So, I mean, I love it, but I think a lot of people get into it not having any idea what they're getting into.
What advice would you give those future assistant coaches out there looking to become coaches and one day become head coaches?
You're never ready and you never know as much as you think you do. It takes a lot. Like you can learn from the worst coaches too. Like I've had some bosses that are not great and I've had some phenomenal ones. And even the ones that weren't great, I've learned quite a bit from them as well. And sometimes you're learning what not to do and you're figuring out what your style is and what you want to do when you're a head coach. But the biggest thing is loyalty. Like you have no idea what you're doing until you actually sit in that first seat, and then things change. Like your decision making changes. It's a lot easier when you don't have to, answer to, the decisions that you're making, because you're that assistant coach. You can suggest a way, but you don't have to suffer the consequences when, things don't go exactly how you thought.
What advice would you give those head coaches looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
It takes time. If you're looking for something to happen immediately, you're probably going to be very frustrated and will not last long. It takes a while. Make sure you go someplace too where they're totally bought in on athletics, and you can't win without money. It does not matter where you go. You can be the best coach in the world. You got to have money and scholarships so you can bring in players. You can make and develop players, but you can't make somebody who's not a good player into a great player, and you can't win without great players. So, everything takes time though too. If you're always looking at your win-loss record and that's what you're living for, you're going to be pretty miserable.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the Warren women's basketball program at?
You can just Google Nikki Jessee, and it's Jessee. It should all pop up.
Thank you again, Coach Nikki Jessee, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.